And we are live. So, welcome to episode 136 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. Returning once again this evening from last night, because we had them on, the Walk the Cinema podcast, who've come back for more. Gluttons for punishment, I suppose. But it's always good to have them on and to talk some film. So thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Always. And returning, I think for the second time, we've got Ben from Cadaver Club, and Ben was here for Bone Tomahawk, which was another fantastic film to cover. Yeah, not nearly enough people talking about Bone Tomahawk, and we were glad to get the word out about that. And like a lot of movies that I cover on here, there are a lot of films people aren't talking about, so that's part of the fun part. And every once in a while, like we were talking about last night, you actually get somebody who says, "Hey, I saw that movie after you did the show," that kind of makes it worthwhile. So tonight, we're looking at something different. And I guess over the past 10 or 15 years, Norse mythology and the gods and things like that have become very popularized. There's probably no one on Earth, unless they live in like outer Mongolia, that probably wouldn't recognize Chris Hemsworth if he's donning the uniform. Oh, that's Thor, these sorts of things. You've had the Netflix shows like Vikings, and that originally started with the History Channel here, and then you would go into shows like The Last Kingdom, which is actually a 5-season run, which just finished its final season, and a very, very good show. And then even more recently, this year, you've had Robert Eggers branch off into a bit of it with The Northman. Which I thought was a fantastic film, a very mature and adult look at things. Not at all the typical action movie that you get nowadays. I love it. I already have a copy of it. It's great stuff. But I hadn't seen anybody take Norse mythology through a horror route, and that's what we've got here. We've got The Ritual. And this is a movie that I had discussed, I was saying before we went on, maybe in the first 10 or 15 episodes of the show. But I had one other person on here. As anyone who's within their first couple of shows, you don't really have a feel for it. And I thought that this movie deserves not only a second look, but a larger panel. So I was trying to get many people. My schedule got freaky, and suddenly I have this lurch in the schedule where I did a couple of Friday shows. So Friday nights are tough to get people on, but I appreciate you guys coming on. And if you're ready, we'll get it started. So shall we go?
Yeah.
Boogie woogie. So The Ritual is based on the fantastic novel by Adam Nevill. And if you're a fan of horror out there in the stream, or anybody here on the panel, and you're looking for a fantastic horror author, Adam Nevill is your guy. He's one of the bright lights nowadays in modern horror. If you get away from the Kings and the Joe Hills and things like that, and you're looking for someone who's, taking a few more risks, no disrespect to King's work or to Joe Hill or anything like that, don't misunderstand me. But there are other people out there that are doing it that probably aren't getting as much recognition as they should. He's written books like The Ritual, Cunning Folk, and quite a number of books that more people should be reading. I've been trying to get him on the show for about 6 or 8 months now, and we've just been playing tag back and forth. And I hope, not before too long, that we have a chance to do it. But this is a Netflix movie, a Netflix original film. And Netflix, in my opinion, is not exactly known for their horror. In terms of streaming channels, some of their horror is among the weakest of the options out there. And so this was one of those, if I'm not mistaken, one of those films where it's just like a Sunday afternoon and it's raining and I'm looking for something to watch and I'm sprawled on the couch and I'm like, okay, let me give this a try. And within 15 minutes, I was like, holy shit, this is fantastic. It's very short. It's 90 minutes. It's very streamlined. There's no real fat on the script or anything like that. Relatable story in a sense. We'll get to that in a minute. And maybe one of the most original creature designs that I can remember in recent memory. A really fantastic monster in this. Where did you guys first see this film? Was it just because of with Walter Cinema? Was it just because of my request to cover it, or had you seen it before?
I'd seen it. She hadn't.
Yeah, this is my first watch. We watched it a couple days ago for it.
The first time I watched it was like kind of just I'm on Netflix. Let me put something on.
Yeah,
and that was the one, and I really did like it the first time. So, I mean, the 19 minutes helps it. It's short, it's straight to the point, and it's intriguing. So it's perfect to just click on Netflix.
I always appreciate a streamlined story, something that just kind of gets right to it and stays with it, and then you're out, and then you're done. I think that's a really good sign. Ben, what was the first time that you ran into this?
I don't remember exactly how I ran into it. I must have just put it on Netflix. I've seen it probably like 6 times though.
Okay.
I mean, I agree. I love the sort of general atmosphere of it, and like the sound design and the just general atmosphere in the forest is really good. And there's some creepy stuff, just creepy imagery throughout that I thought was really good. So I was drawn in quite a bit.
Yeah, it's got great cinematography. About 3 or 4 months ago, we had, maybe during wintertime even, we had done a top 5 themes and soundtracks show. And one-time guest on here, Josh, good friend of mine, had this as, I think it might have been his number 2. It's got a great score by Marco Beltrami. That the score sometimes isn't something that you pay attention to until somebody points it out to you. That really adds to the creep factor in this. And this time, because I've only seen it maybe 2 or 3 times, if I really like a movie, I have this weird thing where I try to avoid watching it too often so I don't get tired of it. So I'll be very sparing. So I mean, it's been probably 18 months since I've seen it since the last time. So right before, I think a little bit after 5 or something like that, or right before 6, I started watching it and, finished it up just in time for this show. And it's still fucking great. It's still held up. I'm, just glued right to the screen, except that I'm trying to take a few notes here and there. So it differs from the book only in one regard, really, one major regard. Because in the movie, what happens is you have 5 friends. And they're 30-something, early 30-something guys, married, some not married, whatever, some kids, some not kids. And they're going out for beers and drinks. And they're British guys. And on the way home, as is always the case when people go out drinking, there's always somebody who wants to stop off for more alcohol. There's always that one person, guy or girl, wants to hit the packaged goods store or whatever. So they stop off, and the two guys go in, and the guy looks at this huge bottle of vodka, and I'm thinking, what the fuck has this guy got planned tonight? Jesus Christ, 'cause I thought he was gonna buy like a 6-pack or something like that, but he grabs like a liter of vodka, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, all right, this guy. And what they don't realize is that they've walked into a strong arm robbery. It's strong arm robbery that's being committed inside the store, and you've got two guys who are clearly drugged out. They're robbing the store with a fucking machete. So it's like the Road Warrior. You're like, what the hell? And I'm looking at like, what the hell are you doing with that? It's not a gun or anything. They're literally, just hacking people with this machete to grab whatever they can. And the main character of the story is a guy named Luke, the guy who wanted the booze, and then his friend Rob, I think, who goes in with him. And the minute that they figure out that they're being robbed, Luke hides around the corner and sort of he just ditches his friend, like he just without thinking, just this impulse thing to run away, which kind of reminded me of An American Werewolf in London, where the guy David, when Jack gets attacked, he just bolts. And for he bolts for a good 3 seconds of sprinting before he realizes what he's done and then runs back. But by then it's too late, and David is like ripped to pieces. So what was your reaction? Because I had kind of a visceral reaction to that, to him kind of ditching his friend. But at the same time, I almost kind of understood, and you're just like, I could see, just as a human being. What did you guys think of that?
I mean, they always tell you not to be the hero in this type of scenario. Like if you avoid them, they're not going to go after you because that's not their objective. They're trying to get, the money. So if you get out of the way, they might not attack you. But in this situation, his friend is like being robbed himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is hard. It is like, what do you do in that situation? You're unarmed. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're capable of. But I mean, it's a bad look.
Yeah, I definitely had like mixed emotions as I was watching it, because at first when he's hiding, I was like, oh, don't be the hero, because it kind of looks like he might go around and try to save his friend, but then he kind of thinks better of it. And then when his friend gets bludgeoned, then it's kind of like, oh, now you look like a coward. You're very cowardly for not
which is the underlining theme of the movie, besides the horror, is Luke trying to man up all throughout it, trying to protect himself and protect his friends, which by the end, I guess, after they all die, he decides that he can face the monster.
Well, I mean, all right, so Ben, what did you think? And we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, it is a tricky situation. You don't know how you're gonna. I mean, when you're in that situation, you just react. You don't really think about it. I've been in some situations where I did shit I never would have thought I was gonna do. I'm not like a tough guy or anything. So I've been in a situation where everyone was standing around and I tried to stop something from happening. And I was pretty sure as I was doing it, I didn't even think about it, but I was pretty sure I was going to get my ass severely kicked. You know what I mean? So you just never know. I mean,
yeah.
That's a go ahead.
I was going to say, and the way it transpires is pretty fast. He just gets hit twice, basically. So it wasn't this big hey man, fuck you, whatever. It just sort of happened quick. I'm not convinced he could have stopped it from happening.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, because it's England and not America. If it was America, they'd obviously have guns. And it would be
and then again, so with the five guys,
exactly.
We could have had a little tombstone action going on. Everybody's just shooting in the OK Corral. That would have been cool. That's a different movie. But he's right. Ben is right, I think, in the sense that no one knows what they're honestly going to do until you're in that situation. And I don't know that this man, Luke necessarily lived a cowardly life. It's just in the moment with a bunch of alcohol in him, taken by surprise. He just fell back on his heels. And you're right.
I think he feels like a coward, and I think his friends think he's a coward. They rub it in his face when they get mad.
What happens is that he actually waves his friend off,
right?
Because his friend looks at him like, "Are you going to help me here?" And he's just like, "No, don't let him know that you can see me or something." And so it's it's ambiguous, but it doesn't look good. It's not a great look to ditch your buddy. It'd be one thing, not to. I mean, he didn't have to turn into Steven Seagal or something like that, or Jean-Claude Van Damme and start kicking everybody, but he kind of ditches his own buddy, and the guys want the watch and the wallet, and the guy's okay, sure, no problem, no problem, and it's the smart thing to do. But then they ask for the one thing that he won't give up, which is his wedding ring,
Right.
and that's when he ends up getting the chop. And so it ends, and then it's just over. And now I said all that to say this: in the book, there's no robbery. That's what I'd love to have Adam on, is to ask him why, because it's a different screenwriter. Joe Buckner is the screenwriter, not Adam Nevill. But other than that, it's very faithful. It just starts off where they're hiking through Sweden. They're four buddies, and so there's not that animosity over that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, they just added in this robbery, I guess, to, a little exposition or, whatever. But, the next thing they're hiking through Sweden, which is what Rob wanted to do, because they were all talking about vacation plans and going to Paris or going to Germany and all these. But, Rob got killed, so they wanted to go. And that's why I said relatable, not because of a robbery, but because if you've ever gone on a road trip with friends that's gone sideways, or like people start to get on each other's nerves, like everybody can relate to that, and, maybe they thought you were the pain in the ass, or you thought they were the pain in the ass, or, someone just starts whining and complaining about everything and this, that, and the other. That's kind of the tone that's being set up. Because you've got Phil, you've got Hutch, you've got Dom, you've got Luke, and they're going through Sweden, and the landscape is very beautiful. It starts out extremely beautiful. It's vast, and it's full of hills, and it's very green, but it's not exactly an upbeat kind of thing. It's kind of overcast and bleak. And it doesn't paint a pretty picture. And they make this comment that this land was, hammered out by the gods thousands of years ago. Some god hammered this out with a hammer and, made it look this way. But in the movie, there's, of course, these underlying resentments because that people are feeling towards Luke, especially this guy, Rob, because, they're pouring out drinks and laying things at this, this monument at the top of this hill. And, and the one, the comments start being dropped, like it shouldn't have happened at all. Which at the time I thought was, I didn't like the Rob character from the start, pretty much. He was complaining and, all these sorts of things. And then, the comments start dropping, and then and this is kind of where the book picks up. Rob hurts his knee, and you can just tell he's a hypochondriac. And like nothing drives me crazier than a hypochondriac. So I just had he was just annoyed the shit out of me right away. I can't go any further. I've torn my meniscus, and you're just like, what are you, a doctor or something? The guy's like, his friends are talking to him. They're like, it's definitely not nearly as bad as he's saying it is. So on and so forth. You've got Hutch, who's kind of at least the hiking leader. And then you've got Phil, who just seems to be kind of along for the ride. But, Luke, I think like G was saying, is trying to... Did you get the sense? I didn't get the sense that he was trying to overcompensate. I think you could see that he was clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think
he felt guilty.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think he necessarily was trying to prove to anyone else that he wasn't a coward, but maybe to himself.
That it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, in the back of his mind, he wanted to, if this happened again, I would definitely save him. because you keep getting the flashbacks. So he's definitely
Yeah.
not over it at all.
Yeah, he's traumatized too. You know, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I think, like you said, the book, they didn't have the robbery, but that works really well in the movie because it creates all that dramatic tension between the friends, which just, adds really to the whole atmosphere of the movie, and they're sort of like things are going sideways and just getting worse and worse and worse. And I think like this movie in particular is sort of like a redemption story, really, right? He sort of redeems himself throughout the story.
Yeah.
But I thought that dynamic between the friends, sort of blaming him. I mean, honestly, like just looking at it from the outside perspective, you can't really blame him for the death of his friend, but if that's your loved one or whatever, like that's your friend and your other friend was in there and he died. I mean, you're looking to blame someone, or you need some kind of outlet for your grief, and that's what he sort of became.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that you definitely can see that like there's a struggle with his friends, because his friends are like, well, we know it's not your fault, like you shouldn't beat yourself up about it, because that's like the rational part of them saying like, I can't be mad at him for surviving a robbery attack. But then like as tensions build, the like underlying feelings of resentment that they have towards the surviving friend come out, as tensions rise, and they get to speak their kind of deep-seated true feelings.
Yeah, I had just seen a similar film a couple of weeks ago called Kill, which is an old Criterion Collection samurai film, and it's about these guys that are locked in a siege inside this building, and they're being attacked from the outside. But the real problem is inside, because all the people in the building have all these resentments towards each other, and so it starts to break down from within. And, that's sort of in a way what's happening here. Yeah, there's no rational reason to blame him. But, at the same time, he didn't make any effort. So, it's a tough ticket. I love the cinematography when Dom bends his knee, or whatever it is, and Dom is the guy on the left. Dom is the guy on the left, the kind of pokey guy. He's out of shape, and he's not able to handle any of these things. And anybody who's ever done a significant hike knows that it takes a bit of fitness. It's not flat land kind of stuff. There's climbing that's involved. There's declines that are involved. There's tricky kind of footwork that's involved. You can go on some things that are, quite easy leg breakers, that goes on for extended periods of time. And Dom is just clearly not up for this. And you get the impression that, he's kind of sandbagging it. And then the idea comes because Dom says that he can't handle going through the trail, that they're going to cut through the woods. And that's where the wheels just automatically start to come off, because you can just see how dense and dark these woods are. There doesn't seem to be any type of trail involved in them at all. And, a long time ago, I was in Pennsylvania, the hills of Pennsylvania, and I was in woods like that. I mean, it was just a bright, beautiful June day. And I went into these woods, and they were so dense, it was like, it might as well have been 8 p.m. When it was noon. And I was just like, what the hell is going on here? This was decades ago. But to be in those types of woods is it's not a fun thing. I mean, and you look at these trees, they don't look hospitable at all. Everything looks like it's, trying to get you. They're cutting through the forest. And then, and what sort of reminded me of the Blair Witch, they start running into that dead elk.
Mm-hmm.
And, the elk is like 10 or 12 feet in the air, impaled on these trees, and you're like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, it's a good sign to leave. And
Yeah. As always in horror movies, everyone makes the worst possible decision. I'd like actually someone to write a horror movie where someone makes the right decisions, even though it doesn't work out. At least just make the right decisions.
Yeah.
But nobody ever makes the right decisions in these
No.
movies, and
They steer
know,
from the trail, which is a big hiking no-no, you know.
yeah,
You never know what's in there.
or the guy's like, we could just double back out of here.
Mhm.
No, we're gonna keep on going. And I'm like, who the hell wants to keep going through a forest like this? And I think it explains in the books that nobody had like explored these forests for like 1,000 years. It was like these lands that just people just don't go in anymore, or that the Swedish government didn't go in it anymore, hinting that perhaps they knew that something was going on in there that they didn't want to get into. Yeah, I mean, they find that, and then what really starts to come apart is when they find the house.
Right.
You've got the house, which just looks creepy as hell. And the initial feedback right away is that there's witchcraft going on in here.
That one right there is the second house.
Is that the second house?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's creepy too.
That's the one that after the first house, they're like, absolutely fucking
We've been here before.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think about the first house and what they found in there? I mean, clearly there was this creepy statue.
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like that before. I'm not big on Norse mythology or anything like that. I read a few books here and there, but it's not some pastime of mine. But that was genuinely scary, I thought.
Yeah, that looks terrifying.
Yeah, I would definitely not stay in the cabin like they did, because they had tents, because they sleep in their tents at a later scene. So
But we also see that doesn't work out because they
Well,
find
yeah.
an abandoned tent from like 98 or something.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work out, but I still feel like if this were me in the situation, I would choose the tent somewhere in a location that was nowhere near this, creepy house that has some type of statue in it.
You are absolutely correct, but I think they make the guys' decision, that we're four guys, we're in this house, we're gonna be okay, and no, you're not gonna be okay. It's not gonna work out at all. Ben, what did you think of the house?
Well, I think like just first off, the tone's really set with the goddamn elk in the tree or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they see the symbols on the trees too, right? And then they get to the house. I could see like it was pouring, and so they're like gonna pitch their tents in the rain, and then I mean they're already fucking soaked, and I think like they want to get out of the rain.
Yeah, it's past the point of.
So it makes sense. I think the first time I saw this, I thought that statue was really creepy, and I'm sure we'll get to the creature in a bit. But one of the things that was like super creepy or that works really well for me is just like the bastardization of like human and animal forms like mashed up together, like it has like these weird chicken feet looking things too, like and so I thought it was like super creepy, especially since the tone had been set and the sound design and everything getting in there.
If I'm not mistaken, because I did recently read Neil Gaiman's book on Norse mythology, which is kind of like a pop fiction kind of, it reads like a Marvel movie or something like that. I think Loki did transform himself into a steed or something like that and mate with another steed and sired an offspring called Moder, which is actually what this creature is. So it's kind of this half, you're right, that's the best way to put this bastardization of meshing animals and, human-like or humanoid kind of species together. I mean, the dreams really freaked me out. Because what you think is going to be four guys staying together, everybody immediately is just undone. And you know, it's really bad when you see the one guy, I think it's Hutch, who's like the leader. He's pissed his pants.
Yeah.
You know, which is like a bad sign. That's a bad sign. You know, and maybe that's just among guys. I've never seen, you know, movies where, you know, like women are pissing their pants or anything like that. But, you know, when a guy, you're like, oh, this is okay. Yeah, these guys are in way over their head.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, first off, let me say I loved the sort of meshing of the interior of the store with the forest. I thought that was just like visually so interesting. But that was his dream, right? Our protagonist's dream. Yeah, Hutch pissed himself. Homeboy with the fucked up knee is just like sort of like out of it, talking about his wife. And then the other dude's naked, praying to the fucking like. So yeah, everyone's affected in ways that's completely normal for them. So yeah, I would be creeped out a little bit.
See, but that's what I like about the story, and the story just really goes for it. You know, I mean, you know, it's not pulling any punches or anything like that. One guy's pissed his pants. Another guy's naked upstairs praying to this fucking deity, this pagan deity. Yeah. You know, Luke. And this is another thing that I caught, or I think was part of the flashbacks with the liquor store. The impaling wounds that are on Luke. This creature had the ability to sort of mesmerize people and to make them see things that made them, that they could relate to. Like at the end when Rob, he sees his wife, you know, and so, you know, it's like an animal, like a snake or something that can, you know, hypnotize, you know, its prey or something like that to make it more docile and not fight back. And here in these early instances, although you don't understand it at the time, I think what he was seeing was what Motor wanted him to see, which is just something that's relatable to him. So he won't realize that he's being, you know, sort of chosen, which is what that scar ends up meaning. You know, he's being selected to be the new servant because, you know, the people that are in the woods that are serving this creature, they're not allowed to die. They just go on and on and on and on. So you don't know how old they are, but you get the impression that, you know, Motor selects someone young and new.
I think when I watch this, usually it seems to me like the entity that's stalking them or whatever basically can is sort of like sense their fear and manipulate their minds in a way that like it feeds into their fear. So what it seemed to me, since they were all sort of freaked out. But then it was really interesting at the end when Homeboy's getting sacrificed and he sees his wife. You know what I mean? Like it's like I don't really understand sacrifice, like human sacrifice.
Well, yeah, I mean, get off the show, man. If you don't understand human sacrifice, you have no place. You know,
I mean, it seems like, well, it seems like if you're going to murder someone, people that murder people are like in it for the sense of power, and they want to. It's almost like, you know, they want to see the person's helplessness. But in this case, it's almost like he was soothing him with the image of his wife. You know what I mean?
Well, my impression was that he's hunting them. So when a hunter or when a predator kills its prey, it doesn't drag it out. You know, whether it's like one of my favorite Instagram channels is Nature is Metal. And it's just about, I love watching Nature is Metal. It's and some of it's quite barbaric, but it's not. It's not at the same time, because the animal is just doing as much as he needs to do to kill and survive.
Yeah.
You know, he's not dragging it out, or she's not dragging it out, or this, that, or the other. And I think that's what's happening here.
I got the sensation that it was completely dragging it out, because that thing is a massive force to be reckoned with, and it could easily just kill them all simultaneously if it rushed them. You know, like
one at a time.
It's sort of spaced, but why? I mean, like.
It's thousands of, and that was a conversation I've had in other movies, like possession movies. You get these creatures that are like thousands and thousands, and maybe not millions of years old. You know, and they just, I mean, you know, I could be talking out of my ass, or I am probably, but it's just they don't see it the same. They don't see time in the same way. So what seems like dragged out to us probably isn't to something that's gone back, what, 1,000, 2,000 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
Who knows how long that thing has been living in there. So, what basically happens over the course of like 2 or 3 evenings.
But I think he could have just like done it all at the house if he wanted to, like
probably. I think he was stalking, selecting, and then picking off the ones that he didn't want.
Yeah.
He let the people know, this is Luke is the one that I've selected. You're going to go prepare him. There's no defying him or it. And that's just basically the way it works. He's not working on our clock here. It's a phenomenal. I mean, after this happens, then they start to get picked off.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought okay. So I think I'm onto something here. Maybe it picks off Hutch, who's kind of the de facto leader. Because all of a sudden, remember they for some reason they decide to start listening to Rob. And he's like, well, we're going southwest. He's like, what does he tell him? Southwest can go fuck itself. And he just starts taking off in some random direction, and Hutch is like, we've got 5 more minutes on this trail and then I'm pulling rank. So he's kind of like the leader of this expedition of sorts. And that's the first one that he goes after.
Mm-hmm.
Just takes out the leader quick. And then hangs him up in that tree, for them to find. And then Phil goes. It gets Phil next, and then leaves Luke and Rob together. And then you meet these people that are, I guess, have been serving this thing for God knows how long. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the book there might have been some metal kids or something, people that have been going out there, like I think some kids or something that went out there and found this and have, I can't remember if they're traveling back and forth, but like their loyalties are there. It's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did you think of the village people?
I like the YMCA song.
in the Navy, but what I mean, no great impact. I didn't sense anything, but
I guess I was just gonna say that I guess I wonder why the creature chooses the people that it chooses. Like, what is its criteria? And like the only thing that I could think of was what the woman said to him, was that he has suffered greatly, so now he's going to live forever and suffer some more, which could be the thing. But I also think it's because the creature kind of senses that he is the weakest link kind of in this group, because he is so down on himself, and everybody is kind of like, we're not saying that we don't like him, but that's kind of the general vibe that they're giving off, that this guy is outside of the main group now because he didn't save the other friend, no matter how irrational that is. And that would be like the only thing that I could think of why the creature chooses who he chooses. Like, he thinks that they're suffering the most, or they thinks that they are the weakest, like, people that he can kind of control and manipulate.
I think that's why the people are like, that's the part that is my least favorite, when the movie goes a little bit down for me, because
at the house,
I just don't care about the community of people that are around, because they just kind of exist to exist. And
they're flat characters. You don't really get anything out of them.
They're not really scary either, because they don't have any powers. No. So they just kind of exist. And then, I mean, I think it's cool that they have these like super old people in like the basement. Who's doing or whatever at that point.
They've like fossilized almost. Yeah. They're like dried fruit or something like that.
Yeah, those look kind of cool, but still they don't serve much of a purpose.
I think story wise, his whole arc is a redemption arc, right? So if he was chosen because of his great pain, and then he has to like sort of struggle against the creature. Well, first off, it establishes why he was chosen, just from a storytelling perspective. And it sort of sets up that whole like last third act, right? I mean, the confrontation between him and the creature.
Is there a consideration, or do you think this is out of the realm of possibility, that his being selected is a reprieve from his suffering?
Maybe
like you've suffered and now you have the privilege of serving.
Yeah,
maybe now.
I kind of got that sense, but then I also, with his like redemption thing, as I was watching it, I kind of did get that he was like redeeming himself like through the movie, but then I kind of started thinking like, well, he's only kind of redeeming himself. He's like finally standing up for himself when his life is in danger, not when anybody else, like all of his friends' lives are now, they're gone.
Yeah.
He has no one to care for but himself, and that's kind of when I feel like he steps his game up in terms of like defiance, where he does stand up to the big scary monster. It's only after everyone else is gone and he has to save himself that he like
when Rob begs him to break out and burn everything and save him, he kind of just scared of it.
Yeah.
But after Rob's dead and he has to do everything, then he burns the house and runs away.
Well,
I mean, sorry,
go ahead, man.
I was going to say, after Hutch, he was the leader dude, right? I'm terrible with names. After Hutch dies, he sort of takes the lead role. Like,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
And at that point, he's like holding them together, and he's like, "Listen, pull your shit together." So for me, that redemption arc had already started at that point.
Yeah.
And then once the homeboy who was naked begging or praying to the statue dies,
Phil,
and he doesn't leave his friend. He's like, "Listen, man, we're gonna have to run," and he like literally is holding him up and running with him.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I just feel like, and this is just my like, I guess my nitpickiness is that like it just sort of feels like even though he's done all of that, where he does try to save everybody and he does try to step up, it still leaves him at the end with like he only saved himself. He was only able to save himself, and maybe that's like I don't know if you would call it the moral of the story, but like like he couldn't, like him accepting that he couldn't do anything to save his friend at the robbery because he couldn't save any of his friends from this like demon, half human, half like monster type thing, I don't know.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I think, when you're dealing just like with people's psyche in general, like really you're powerless over what anyone else does. So the only thing you can do is sort of like work on yourself and how, so for me, that element of it worked because he's like, what's he against a god to save the dude? I mean, like, how can he save those guys? There's like no way.
Yeah,
he would have been gutted instantly.
And even at the end, like, to me, it felt like, okay, well, fuck it. He knows, I know I'm going to die, but whatever. It was again a thing. Like, I'm not even really thinking. He's not even really thinking about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the impression that after Hutch kind of confers with him more than anyone else. So Hutch is looking to him for some, feedback. He's not asking Rob. He's not asking Luke. And then Hutch, dies. And yeah, you're right. He instantly becomes the de facto sort of leader. But they've got a pocket knife between the three of them, which is basically a little more than a letter opener, so the options that are available, it's not a Jason Statham movie, or something like that, where, he's going to rig up, all these things out of the trees, or, it's going to be like Predator, or something like that, where everybody's armed to the teeth. He's definitely dealing with guilt. But you in talking this out now, you do get the impression there probably wasn't too much he didn't necessarily do the right thing, but the alternative in the liquor store probably wouldn't have been any different. Yeah. And he probably would have gotten killed too.
Yeah, and I think he did. I think that's why, like, I think he does realize, or like that's to show that, you know, throughout the movie he couldn't do anything because he can't control like what others around him are doing. So I do get that, you know.
Certainly not two crackheads with machetes.
Yeah.
You know, these are not rugged guys, and that was another interesting thing. These are not like rugged guys. Yeah. You know, this isn't an action movie where like 4 Marines, you know, go hiking off or something like that, you know, from Generation Kill or something, or Black Hawk Down or something. These are like 4 college-educated, married, you know, kind of flabby, you know, guys that are just, you know, they still want to, they're 30-somethings who want to do 20-something shit, you know, and they're fish out of water. You know, and they were right. You know, when the guy says we should have gone to Las Vegas, I think that's the best line I think Rob has of the whole movie. They should have gone to Vegas. Yeah. These are guys that should go to Vegas. Yeah. They have no business being out there, you know, hiking in the woods with like no proper equipment, you know, no GPS, you know, none of these sorts of things, no satellite phone or anything like that. And they just get their asses handed to them. And, you know, yeah, I mean, what alternative do they have? I really just love the cinematography. There's that one scene where after Hutch gets killed and Luke takes control of everybody, the shot goes up to the fog, and you can't even see how far the woods extend. And it reminded me of that movie, The Others, where, you know, you don't realize that they're in the afterlife and the fog is the barrier between the two worlds. And her husband comes back, she runs into her husband, and he's like, you never seem to get through the end of this fog. It just never seems to stop. And when I saw that the first time, I remember, I'm like, this is hopeless. Like this is just not going to pan out or anything like that. But you know, unlike the Blair Witch Project, you get a tangible nemesis to kind of check out, and it really is an awe-inspiring creature. That is one of the most original designs I've seen, and like I said, I'd love to get Adam Nevill on the show sometime to talk about where he, you know, came up with I mean, he really must have done his research. I mean, look at that. It's just like the statue at the top. And then you've got human arms, or what seem to be sort of human-like arms, and you can see the 2 eyes that are sort of covered by like this, you know, what almost appears to be a cowl. Yeah. And then you know, it's like a giant steed at the same time. I mean, it's a fantastic creature. Fantastic. Yeah. You don't get too many decent monster movies anymore. You know, I'm trying to think. Not Relic. Well, yeah, it's every once in a while you get a decent movie with a really good, maybe every 10 years or something like this. And it's unfortunate that more people aren't talking about this. And then when you see it expand at the end and, you know, just go to its full height like that, you're like, holy shit! Like somebody who did this actually gave a shit. Yeah. You know, I mean, and this is very loyal to what Neville's creature is. So, like, somebody actually took the time to design this rather than I don't think this was CGI. This looks like practical effects, and yeah, someone gave a rat's ass. Which is, I mean, you can just tell that thing in your brain sometimes. You know, when you're looking at CGI. You know, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that doesn't look, but something triggers. I didn't get enough chance to do any to research on the film whether it is practical effects, but I believe so.
I think it's part practical, but there's plenty of CGI scenes like that creature running. They didn't.
Yeah.
But then, like when he's face to face with it, there toward like that final confrontation, clearly there's something physically in front of him.
Yeah, and before that, we get to Rob, who ends up being sacrificed. And this is where, you know, I really started to cement my idea about the mesmerism. Because instead of seeing the creature, he sees his wife.
Mhm.
So, you know, there's almost like this merciful sort of aspect that, yeah, I'm going to kill you, but, you know, I'll try to make it as, you know, painless as possible. Because Rob was kind of annoying, but even at the end, by the end, like I didn't want him to die.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
You don't want
you know,
anyone to die.
because like Ben said, there's that one scene where he tells Rob, "I'm not going to leave you, man. You know, we're gonna get out of here." And like, you know, Rob's telling him, you know, tell my wife, you know, I died trying to get away, trying to get back home, and you know, he's like, I'm not going to have to do that. You know, we're going to get out of here. You know,
And he's like, burn this fucker to the ground if you
yeah,
can. Right? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and so that was, you know, that would kind of have been a fitting ending or something. They call it an airstrike on this place or something, you know, to just, you know, we've had enough of this shit. It's been 2,000 years.
Yeah.
You know, enough is enough. You know, we want Wi-Fi. Nobody wants any fucking pagan idolatry anymore. You know, those days are fucking gone. And yeah, I mean, I think there's some hit to that in that this thing realizes that its time is kind of coming to an end. Because its wooded area constantly becomes smaller. So it's clearly confined within those woods. And as, you know, the world gets smaller, so does its place to live. So yeah, I think it sort of is conscious of the fact that, you know, it's among its last times.
I mean, it's kind of like in a valley, though, right? So like, it's like a forest and a valley between
something like that.
Because they're like on one side of the valley and they're looking at the other sort of part of the valley, and then below them is the forest. So I mean, who knows? Like maybe the forest went all the way to the ocean before. I don't know, but like, I didn't get the sense like there wasn't a bunch of like when he gets sort of out of the thick of the forest, there wasn't like a bunch of cut down trees or anything.
No, and it is made of some mention. I don't remember exactly what the landscape is outside of the forest, or if it's exactly as flat as that. Because you're right, it goes from perfectly green and hilly, all of a sudden to the tree line.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, I don't remember if that matched exactly what was in the book.
I mean, the book probably went in more into like stuff that I'm not privy to.
Oh yeah, and the chase scene at the end between Luke and the Thing is actually quite a bit more detailed than this. I mean, here somehow without realizing it, Luke has reached the end of the forest.
Yeah, he just kind of, you know, power walks his way to the
just like, you know, whistling past the graveyard here, you know, just, you know, I'm not looking, you know, and you know, suddenly he's at the end of
God with just a little carabiner, shoots at a god like that's gonna kill him. I thought that was goofy.
Yeah, that was a little funny because he has like the is it a rifle?
Yeah, like a little rifle,
and he just shoots at it while it's distracted, and all that does is make it angry and like
that was not a good decision.
Yeah, and then he slices it with that axe, which manages to hurt it a little bit. But in the book, if I'm not mistaken, there's a much more concerted effort by the creature to kill it. To kill Luke, because once he figures out that Luke's not going to serve, he does something to piss him off, and he's just like, well, okay, I'm just going to schwack you. And I think there's a car. Somehow Luke gets to a car, you know, and the Thing is chasing him through the woods, so on and so forth. If you get a chance, it's definitely a worthwhile read. It's not I guess it's about 300 pages. About 300, almost 400 pages, but it's a quick read and a lot of fun. And that basically is the end of the movie. I mean, Rob makes it out and, you know, he does that. I'm not exactly sure why, but, you know, it turns out to be a very I think overlooked horror film. I don't think people are looking for horror on Netflix. Aside from every once in a while, I guess once a year, Mike Flanagan releases some miniseries. And then people, because otherwise people are looking for Cobra Kai. They're looking for, you know, Stranger Things, which is kind of horror. And they had a really good season. That season was really strong this year. That was the best one since the first season. You know, you've got that German series Dark, which is, you know, kind of horror-ish. But in terms of Netflix releasing just straight up original horror, it doesn't happen very often. And so for some reason, the word isn't getting out nearly as much as it should. But hey, that's why we're here. So if one person catches on and catches it, there you go. All right. Is there anything that we left out that you think we should have touched on about the film? Any point you wanted to make, or
I'll mention that I watched. Do you know who Foundflix is? He's got a YouTube channel. He does like.
Do you watch what? Who?
Foundflix. He's
No.
like got 1 million or 2 subscribers. I don't know. He's
Okay.
a big. But he did like an ending explained video, which is just basically him analyzing it, and his take on the Jotun or whatever it was, was that it could control the forest, and at the point where Homeboy has sort of like redeemed himself and stood up to like the sort of pain of his past and all that stuff, and had that redemption arc, then he was no longer like really wanted by the Jotun, and that's why the edge of the forest is right there. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I'm just
wait. He wasn't.
He was no longer like interesting to the god creature because he didn't have that same pain. I mean, it maybe like he had stood up. He had like basically sort of triumphed past that experience of the past that was bringing him so much guilt and pain.
So the Jotun lets him go, or that's why he just sort of makes it to the forest.
Well, that's what Homeboy was saying, because the Jotun can control. He felt like the Jotun can control the forest as well as like the time of day and stuff, and that's how. So,
interesting take.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. All right. That's worth considering.
I thought it was interesting enough to mention.
Yeah. And I just did. So there. That's okay. I mean, what's Foundflix?
Foundflix, yeah, he does like mostly horror stuff.
Okay.
Flix.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I definitely feel like I would not want to be in Luke's position at the end, because like all of his friends are dead now, and he has to make it to civilization and somehow find a way to explain all that. So
yeah, I don't know who's gonna believe that. Oh yeah, a godlike creature killed all my friends. I definitely didn't heard of them.
If I'm not mistaken, in the book, it's never explained except that he escapes. I can't remember what happens to him at the end. If he just walks off, or like he decides he's not going back, or
I feel like I would decide to go back if I was in the
because it'd be too much. It'd be too much to explain. But there seems to be some sort of implication that the Swedish people understand what's going in those woods, what's going on there.
Gotcha.
It's like Castle Dracula. Like the Transylvanians are in on it. They're like, yeah, we don't go up there. No, we're not going. No, thanks. You can walk, or you can take a horse, or whatever. But yeah, we're not going up. It's kind of like that. So I can't remember if that is how it ends, and he just kind of walks off, and he's not coming back. That kind of thing. But if you get a chance, pick up the book. Find a used copy on Amazon for a couple of bucks, or this, that, and the other. Give a used book a home. All right. So I'd like to get to the part where we rate the movies now. And so I'll ask for a rating between 0 and 5. 0 being, like I was saying yesterday, contact my attorneys. I'm filing litigation because you wasted, this amount of time for me. To 0.5 point, to 1, 1.5, all the way up to 5. 5 being, it was perfect. I loved it, and this is right up there with the very best things I've seen. So I'm going to start with Walk the Cinema, and what do you guys think?
I'll let you go first.
Again, I do think that the third act kind of felt flat for me. I don't like the humans, so I originally gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd, and I did give it a 3 this time.
Okay.
I still like it, and it is worthwhile, and people should check it out, but I don't know, it just didn't have the same impact, especially towards the end. I think that's what kind of brings it down for me, because I don't like people.
Okay. All right. So if we have a movie with no people in it, he'll give it a 5. No fucking people in this movie. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Make 4 more of them. All right. Caitlin, go ahead.
I'm also I'm kind of between a 3 and a 3.5 as well. Like this wasn't my like favorite thing that I've ever seen, especially in a horror movie setting, but it does I think do a good job at, you know, creeping me out. It doesn't necessarily stress me out like some horror movies do, but it did creep me out, I think, to a sufficient level. And I definitely think it's worth watching. It's an interesting story, and it does make me think a lot. And I think that I would benefit from a rewatch kind of with my new perspectives on it, because I kind of did leave it thinking like unclear on whether or not I felt like the character, like our main character, was truly redeemed or not, you know? So
Okay. All right. So wait, that's 3 or 3
I'm
and a half?
between a 3 and a 3.5. I haven't decided. I'll go with 3. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a 3.5.
Yeah, let's say, what are you, Kristen Stewart? You can't make any
I
decisions
know.
here or something, you know?
I'll give it a
Somebody
3
tell
and
me
a
somebody tell me what number I want, you know? Jeez. All right, Ben, what do you got here for us?
I loved it, man. For me, like I like a horror movie that'll take itself seriously. You know what I mean? Like actually try to tell like a serious story. And if it nails atmosphere for me, I'm like all in. So I mean, I guess if you put like the like masterpiece films at 5, I'd probably put this at like a 4.5. I love the creature design.
Yeah.
And so like the third act for me, and the fact that they just like show it in all its glory, you know, it's not like a little flash behind a tree or something. It's like, yeah, it's a full on amazing creature design. So I personally really loved it. I love the execution. I love the interior and the exterior shots. Yeah, I put it way up there, man. I'll say 4.5.
4.5. All right, that's fair. All right, hold on. In the comments here, we have my good friend Julia Morgan over there in the UK, and she's pulling an all-nighter because she's a night owl, and she gives it a 3. And I think Julia knows Adam. So, you know, she knows about this movie, and we were talking last week when we were on stream together, and I told her I'd be doing this. So thanks for stopping in, and you're giving it a 3. Okay, that's fair. I'm going to go with a 3.5. I would have preferred. I didn't need the robbery. I'll be honest. I didn't need the robbery. If you had stuck to Adam's story and just put 4 guys in there with Rob, you know, just being a hypochondriac pain in the ass, you know, and just things start to come apart like any kind of road trip can, that would have worked out fine. Oh, okay, hold on. Julia says she doesn't know him. She just follows him on Twitter, like the rest of us underlings. Okay. Yeah, I would give it a 3.5. That took away a little bit. I wasn't terribly impressed with the people on, like G said, I wasn't terribly impressed with the people in the village. They really didn't seem to add too much to it. They didn't really go to explain what was going on with the people that he set on fire there. Mm-hmm. But what did work for it was that I didn't have any trouble believing that they were 4 friends, because friends irritate the shit out of each other, you know, from time to time, especially if you put them in, like if they say, if you really want to know what kind of relationship you have, travel with someone, you know, you'll find out real fast. You know, exactly, you know, who it is that you're next to there. Again, like Ben said, I thought one of the best creature designs I've seen in a long, long time. I really, really liked it. I'm trying to think of, I mean, maybe Mimic, you know, Del Toro's Mimic. You know, that was a great creature design. There was some really bad CGI in it also, but the practical effects when they put that creature together was first rate. A good story. Again, Norse mythology. If you had fleshed out the people in the village a bit more, or even had like 2 people serving, you know, and you know that would have been fine. But so that took away a little bit from it. But a solid story.
Did you read the book before you saw the movie?
No, I saw the so maybe my opinion is tainted by reading the book. But no, I saw the movie and then I got the book and then I read it and I'm like, okay, yeah, because the book is always better.
Yeah.
Right.
Bottom line, the book is always better. So that turns out to be the case here. But I think we're all in the ballpark, somewhere between 3 and 4.5. So that's reasonable. Okay. I guess this is as good a place as any to bring things to a close. Oh wait, guys, plug something. What have you got coming up? The Walk the Cinema, in case somebody didn't see what you said yesterday. What film have you got? What's coming up? What's your next movie?
We have
that you
nothing
gotta
recorded yet. We'll figure out something before Monday. But
Okay.
I don't know. We just covered all the a couple of the Fellini films. If you're into non-horror movies, we do mostly non-horror.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find us any podcast platform or YouTube at Walk the Cinema Podcast.
Okay. All right. And Ben, you got anything coming up?
One of these days, I'm going to start making YouTube content again. It's been a little while. I do a stream every Saturday on my friend H&S Collectibles channel. Go check out my Instagram, man. Ben Learns to Sing. Watch me sing.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because that's something you took up rather recently, isn't it? That and guitar playing?
Like COVID project, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good thing. Good thing to come out of COVID. All right. That's it for me this week. This has been 3 streams. I did 2 yesterday. And next week, the only thing that I have planned is the Summer of Crime film. As the Summer of Crime starts to wind down with the summer itself, I'm going to be covering the Boondock Saints, which is probably as close to a comedy as this show will ever cover. But it's definitely a worthwhile movie, and it deserves to be talked about. So that'll be it for me next week. I've got a light week, and I sort of look forward to that after 3 this week. All right, that's it for the show tonight. My thanks to the Walk the Cinema podcast and to Ben from Cadaver Club. Thanks to Julia for stopping in, and we'll see you all real soon. Take care, everybody.